Hello, and welcome to Elite Star Admissions TOEFL and IELTS Guide. Today we'll be going over English proficiency and the difference between the two main tests. More likely than not, international students applying to universities in the US and most other English-speaking countries such as the UK, Canada, Australia, and Singapore will be required to submit an English proficiency test result. The two most common are the TOEFL and the IELTS. Their goal is to see how well of a command you have over the English language. This is to ensure you can understand and keep up inside and outside of the classroom if you do end up getting admitted into one of the universities in these countries. It is recommended that students take them in the summer of their 11th grade before they get swamped with personal statements, supplemental essays, and other required documents needed to apply to college with. You don't want to take it too early though, since these tests are usually only valid for 2 years. You'll only need them to enter college, but it's worth the price and time. You don't want to be rejected just because you didn't include a test result when you could have. The biggest difference between the two is that currently, the TOEFL can only be taken as internet-based, which means you'll still be at the site, but you'll be interacting with a designated computer. And the IELTS is paper-based, where you write your answers and talk to an examiner. But we'll be going over that in just a bit. The IELTS is accepted at most universities that require an English proficiency test. Meanwhile, the TOEFL is accepted everywhere else but in the UK. And unfortunately, your IB English HL scores, SAT grades, and other certificates won't really work the same way since these two are the standardized tests universities have agreed on accepting for the longest time. Not to worry though, the TOEFL and IELTS are both easier than the SAT and ACT, so you won't really need a lot of time to prepare or study for either. But what's the difference between the two and how do I know which one to take? Let's go ahead and break down the contents and then discuss the grading rubrics. The TOEFL, or Test of English as a Foreign Language, takes about 3 hours. It consists of 4 sections: reading, listening, speaking, and writing. For the most part, you don't really need to have a prior understanding of the presented topics in order to get the correct answers. Just a basic understanding of what's going on in the passages, audio files, and questions. The IELTS, or International English Language Testing System, takes about 2 hours and 45 minutes. It consists of the same 4 sections as the TOEFL: reading, listening, speaking, and writing. Again, you don't really need to have a prior understanding. Just an understanding of the passages and questions. The TOEFL reading section requires you to read academic-related topics, after which you'll answer 30 to 40 questions. This section should take you about 60 to 80 minutes. It will test your understanding of rhetorical functions such as argumentation, cause and effect, and compare and contrast. After reading the passages, you'll be answering multiple-choice questions identifying specific ideas, themes, inferences, essential information, vocabulary, and more. There are a total of 4 to 6 passages, with each one being 700 words long. In the IELTS reading section, you'll be asked to answer different types of questions in 60 minutes for a total of 40 questions. There are 2 types of IELTS tests to choose from: IELTS Academic or IELTS General Training. Everyone takes the same listening and speaking tests, but different reading and writing tests, so ensure that you prepare for the correct version. Generally, you want to take IELTS Academic, the one students take for higher education. IELTS Academic contains 3 long reading passages taken from books, journals, magazines, or newspapers that have been written for a non-specialist audience. You will need to complete a variety of tasks, some of which include multiple-choice questions, identifying information and the writer's views and claims, matching information, headings, features, and sentence endings, sentence notes table and summary completion, and short answer questions. The TOEFL listening section measures your ability to understand English conversations and lectures, which should take you about 60 to 90 minutes. It includes listening for basic comprehension, pragmatic understanding, and connecting information. You will listen to audio files on lectures and conversations, both of which use campus-based language, and then answer questions on main ideas, implications, relationships between ideas, important details, speaker purpose, organization of information, as well as the speaker's attitude. There are 3 to 4 lectures, each 3 to 5 minutes long, with 6 questions per lecture. There will also be 2 to 3 conversations with 2 speakers, each 3 minutes long, with 5 questions per conversation. Note that you will only get to listen to the files once each. You can and should take notes while listening, as you will have the opportunity to look over those while answering each question. The IELTS listening section has you listen to a number of different question types in the form of recordings you can only go over once as well. The section consists of 4 parts, followed by 40 questions that will take you 30 minutes, with an extra 10 minutes for you to write your answers on a separate sheet. Each part has 10 questions, each with a different focus. The answers appear in the order they are heard. The first 2 parts present situations set in everyday social contexts, while the final 2 parts present situations set in educational and training contexts. Part 1 will have you listen to a conversation between 2 people. Part 2, you will listen to a monologue on a general topic. In Part 3, listen to a conversation between 2 or 3 people. Part 4 will have you listen to a monologue on an academic subject. Again, you will hear the conversations only once, so make sure you pay attention. You'll also want to take care when writing your answers on the answer sheet, as you might lose marks for poor spelling and grammar mistakes. The listening section here includes a range of accents including British, Australian, New Zealand, American, and Canadian, compared to the American-based TOEFL. In the TOEFL speaking section, you are given 20 minutes to demonstrate your ability to speak English effectively in academic settings. You will be given 4 questions presented as 2 different tasks that resemble real-life situations you might encounter both inside and outside of a classroom. Question 1. The independent speaking task requires you to draw entirely on your own ideas, opinions, and experiences when you respond. You will be given questions on familiar subjects, which you will answer by stating your opinions and speaking spontaneously and coherently as you communicate your ideas. Questions 2 to 4. The integrated speaking tasks require you to combine your English language skills just as you would in reality. Expect to read a short excerpt and listen to an educational lecture or conversation on campus life. Answer by combining the appropriate information from both textual and spoken sources. Also listen to an academic course lecture or campus life conversation and respond to a question about what you heard by effectively communicating the required materials. The preparation time is 15 to 30 seconds before each response, and then you will have a response time of 45 to 60 seconds. To respond, you'll speak into the microphone and your responses will be recorded, then later sent to be graded by both AI and certified staff to ensure fairness and quality. This section grades your responses based on 4 categories, scoring from a range of 1 to 4 each in general description, delivery, language use, and topic development. It doesn't have to be perfect though. Errors are allowed as long as they do not obscure the intended response's meaning. The keys to acing the speaking section are that your answers must be well developed in general, coherent in speech, relevant in topic, well-paced flow-wise, have effective use in grammar and vocabulary, varied sentence structures, and clear in the progression of ideas. In the IELTS speaking section, you will be put face-to-face with an examiner, where you will be assessed based on your use of spoken English for 11 to 14 minutes. They will read you passages and questions. This will also be recorded. Note that this section can be taken up to a week before or after the other sections as a separate portion of the whole exam. Without the use of AI, they will be able to provide you with more encouragement and comfort, as well as be able to understand your accent to ensure you get the best possible score. There are 3 parts to the speaking test here. Part 1, Introduction and Familiar Topics. For 4 to 5 minutes, the examiner will ask you general questions about yourself and a range of familiar topics such as home, family, work, studies, and other interests. They will be using a question-answer format focusing on your ability to communicate opinions and information on everyday topics by answering a range of questions. Part 2, Individual Long Run. A topic will be handed to you on a card, and you will also be given a piece of paper and pencil for writing notes. The examiner will ask you to talk about the topic, where you will have 1 minute to prepare to speak for 2 minutes. The examiner will then ask 1 or 2 follow-up questions on the same topic. This is an assessment of your ability to speak at length on a particular topic, using appropriate language and organizing your thoughts in a logical way. Part 3, Two-Way Discussion. You will be asked further questions connected to the topic in Part 2 for 4 to 5 minutes, where you can discuss more abstract ideas and issues. This is a test on your ability to express and justify opinions, as well as analyze, discuss, and speculate about a range of ideas connected to the general topic you spoke about in Part 2. The TOEFL rating section will require you to present your ideas in a clear, well-organized manner in 15 minutes through 2 tasks. You'll have 20 minutes for the first task and 30 for the second. The integrated writing task will require you to read a short passage and listen to a short lecture. You will then write in response to what you read and listened to. The independent writing task will have you write an essay based on personal experience or opinion in response to the given topic. You'll type your responses on a computer keyboard or by hand depending if you're taking the paper-based or internet-based. A good response will be about 250 to 300 words for each task. In the IELTS writing section, your answers are handwritten and should be about 250 words. The section introduces 2 tasks that should be done in about an hour. A general rule of thumb for when a test asks you to write at least a certain number of words is to definitely go over that limit. You don't need to write an entire novel, but writing over their requirement shows that you know your topic and have a good understanding of the written English language. Task 1 will have you write at least 150 words describing some visual information from a diagram, chart, graph, or table. Task 2. Write a short essay of at least 250 words responding to a given point of view, argument, or problem. Now that we've gone over the basics, let's look at the grading rubrics. In regards to the TOEFL grading system, the test is scored on a range of 0 to 120 from 4 separate tests for the 4 parts. There is no failing this test, as each university has their own standards. However, a high score would usually be 90 and above if you're aiming for higher ranked universities. Each section has a score range of 0 to 30, where they each have 4 or 5 proficiency levels. Whatever score you get within these ranges tell you your proficiency for that skill. They use the same grading categories for all 4 sections: reading, listening, speaking, and writing, which are advanced, high intermediate, low intermediate, and low intermediate. For advanced reading, you should be able to understand a range of academic and low-frequency vocabulary as well as less common meanings of words, understand explicit connections among pieces of information, and make appropriate inferences even when the passage is conceptually dense and the language is complex. Recognize the expository organization of a passage and the purpose that specific information serves within the larger context, even when the purpose of the information is not marked and the passage is conceptually dense. Follow a paragraph-length argument involving speculation, qualifications, counter-evidence, and subtle rhetorical shifts, as well as synthesize information in passages that contain complex language and are conceptually dense. In advanced listening, they expect you to understand main ideas and explicitly stated important details, even if not reinforced. Distinguish important ideas from less important points. Keep track of conceptually complex, sometimes conflicting, information over extended portions of a lecture. Understand how information or examples are being used. For example, to provide evidence for or against a claim, to make comparisons or draw contrasts, or to express an opinion or a value judgment. And how pieces of information are connected, for example, in a cause and effect relationship. Understand different ways that speakers use language for purposes other than to give information. For example, to express an emotion, emphasize a point, convey agreement or disagreement, or communicate an intention. Also, synthesize information even when it is not presented in sequence and make appropriate inferences on the basis of that information. For advanced speaking, the requirements are that you can speak clearly and use intonation to support meaning so that speech is generally easy to understand and follow. Speak with relative ease on a range of general and academic topics, demonstrating control of an appropriate range of grammatical structures and vocabulary. Any minor errors may be noticeable, but should not obscure meaning. Also convey mostly well-supported summaries, explanations, and opinions, including both concrete and abstract information, with generally well-controlled organization and cohesion. And for advanced writing, prepare to be able to produce clear, well-developed, and well-organized text. Ungrammatical, unclear, or unidiomatic use of English should be rare. Express an opinion on a controversial issue and support that opinion with appropriate details and explanations in writing, demonstrating variety in range of vocabulary and grammatical structures. Finally, select important information from multiple sources, integrate it, and present it coherently and clearly in writing, with only occasional minor imprecision in the summary of the source information. As far as IELTS grading goes, you'll be scored from a range of 0 to 9 from one test for all the same 4 parts. A high score would be 7 and above, where they use section band scores translating your correct marks into their own bands, that you can read more about in the links provided in the description below. In the reading and listening sections, each correct answer is awarded 1 mark. Scores out of 40 are converted to the IELTS 9-band scale. Scores are reported in whole and half bands. For writing, an assessment criteria is used by the examiners to award a band score for each of the 4 criteria, from which the final score of the section is the average. It'll be based on task achievement for task 1, task response for task 2, coherence and cohesion, lexical resource, or just relating to the words or vocabulary of a language, and grammatical range and accuracy. As for speaking, examiners will use similar assessment criteria to award a band score for each of the 4 criteria, where your total score is, again, averaged out. They'll be based on fluency and coherence, lexical resource, grammatical range and accuracy, as well as pronunciation. As mentioned, you don't really need to prepare as much as you would for the SAT and ACT, but there are free official IELTS practice materials you can find online that will help you, as well as TOEFL ones. You can familiarize yourself with the test format, experience the types of tasks you will be asked to go through, test yourself under time conditions, and compare your answers with the example answers. This all seems like a lot, but are there other options other than TOEFL and IELTS? Actually, yes. Recently, most colleges in the US have been accepting the Duolingo English test as a legitimate English proficiency exam. This might not always be the case since it is very recent. It might not even be accepted in the majority of the UK, so you should always check. What does it include and how does it work? It's basically faster, easier, and cheaper, but for a more general overview of the Duolingo test, please see our mini guide on our Instagram. It explains the basic premise, price, and steps you'd need to follow. We hope this helped. To learn more about TOEFL and IELTS, check the links in the description below this video. For more tips, guides, and information, feel free to visit our YouTube channel, website, and Instagram. Thanks for watching, and don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. See you in the next video!